He said he was sorry. An audiobook by Tyler Wakeman. Theodore tried to sleep. He couldn't. All he could hear was yelling from his living room. There was a crash, and he heard his dad curse. There was a door slammed shut, and this time he got out of his bed, opened the door to his room, and stepped out into the dark hallway. He found his mom on the living room couch, crying. Theo rushed over to console her, and sat next to her and waited until she stopped crying. He looked around the room and saw empty bottles and a flipped chair. "Where's Dad?" he asked. "He left. He had too much to drink again tonight." Later that night, they got a call that he had been pulled over for drunk driving, and they had to go to lockup to get him out. When he got home, he was a little bit more sober, but still slightly out of it. He didn't say anything. He silently went to his room and shut the door. "Mom, why doesn't Dad just stop?" Theo asked with an innocent tone of voice. "I really don't know, Theo," his mom said as she sat down on the couch and blew her nose. She had been crying a lot that night. The next morning, Theodore got out of his bed and walked out into the kitchen. Surprisingly, his dad was cooking something that smelled really good. "Hey, Dad," Theo said a little too quietly. His father said nothing. His eyes glazed over. He didn't move unless he had to do something to the meal he was cooking. Theo was having a hard time staying awake in math. Last night he didn't really get a lot of sleep. His teacher, Mr. Lane, noticed. "Theodore Brown, do not fall asleep in my class. If you are going to do that, go sleep in the principal's office." Theo yawned and looked up. "Sorry, Mr. Lane. I didn't get enough sleep last night." He flipped open his book to catch up with the rest of the class. A few people in the back of the class snickered. "We'll make sure you get to bed early tonight," Mr. Lane said. Next hour was language arts, and this time he did fall asleep. "Mr. Brown, get up," his teacher hollered from the front of the room. He didn't get up, and his teacher yelled again. "Mr. Brown!" Someone who sat next to him came over and tapped his shoulder. He slowly opened his eyes to see who was there. What? Who's there?" Theo said groggily. He tried to get up, but he fell out of his chair. The class laughed. Theo yelled, "Shut up!" "Mr. Brown, please go into the hallway and wait for me," the teacher said. "Yeah, I'll go into the hallway, all right, and I'll grab my coat from my locker and walk home." "Theodore, please go to the office." The class laughed as he left the room. Later that day, his dad started drinking again. He tried to grab a second beer out of the fridge, but his wife caught him. "James, put that can down," she said firmly. He still said nothing. "Listen to me. Please, James," she said with tears in her eyes. He shook his head and started walking away. Theodore grabbed a can of pop out of the fridge while his mom flipped through a pamphlet. Theodore looked at his mom and then looked at the pamphlet. "What's that?" "It's a brochure for the rehab center downtown," his mom said quietly. "Are you going to send Dad there?" "I don't know, sweetie." She walked over and embraced him. "Dad, I'm worried about you. You haven't been yourself lately." "So what?" Theodore was trying to find a compromise as they sat on the couch and watched TV. He wanted his father to limit his alcohol intake. "How about you drink 1 bottle a day, and on Saturdays you get 2, Theodore tried to reason. "All right, bud, I'll do this for you." His father finally agreed, and Theo smiled, feeling proud of himself. But his success didn't last long. "Dad, I thought we agreed," Theodore said. At the dinner table, Theo's dad was on his second bottle. He was ignoring his son, who had been trying to get his attention. "Honey," Theo's mom said, and James looked up. "We've been talking. We think you could benefit from rehab." "Rehab? No. Rehab is for people who have addictions. I just enjoy a glass or two every now and then." He jumped up and quickly pushed away from the table. "Honey, stop," she said again, trying to talk her husband down. He walked over and shoved his wife off her chair. She yelped and looked at her son pleadingly from the floor. Theodore jumped into action and rushed to his phone, which had been sitting on the kitchen counter. He quickly dialed 911 and pressed call. "Hello? Hello? Hello?" Theodore said frantically. Hello, 911, what is your emergency? I need police here. My dad just hurt my mom. Okay, sir, what is your address? 500 Mill Street, Amherst, Wisconsin. We will have officers on their way. Please stay on the line. A few minutes passed and Theo went down to help his mom up. She landed on her leg the wrong way and it hurt to walk on it. Finally, an officer arrived to help them. But then James rushed the officer. They got into a tussle, but the policeman easily overpowered him. All he had to show for it was a busted lip and a cut above his right eye. James submitted and hung his head low as the officer handcuffed him. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you two, James said to his family. They walked out of the door and neither of them returned. Theo felt tears coming on and he tried, but he couldn't stop them. He then noticed his mother was crying as well. He said he was sorry, Theo said. The next morning, Theo and his mom sat at the dinner table alone, both of them looking at the empty chair. Mom, I think we need to try to move on. I know. He is going to be in jail for a while. One of those nights when he left without telling us, he was too drunk and hit another car. But instead of helping them, he sped off. Oh. Then he nearly broke my leg, so he's facing battery charges. And he also attacked that police officer. I'm going to miss him, no matter how many bad things he did. Me too, sweetie. Me too.